So my name is Valentina. I was presenting you this paper today titled Sonic In-Betweenness, Binaural Ethnography, and the Sonic Space of Dhikr in Egypt, which is based on my doctoral thesis. And I would like to start by asking you to listen to a very short audio sample that you should have there. Can you confirm me that? Great. Okay. It's about 30 seconds, so let's listen to it and then I will continue. Thank you. Okay, thank you. So as you can see from the photo that I shared on the slide, we are in a public space in the street. We have loudspeakers in the front of the stage where the singer is, and you cannot see them, but also on the back of the stage, creating an enclosed space where voice and musical instruments are, if you listen to the sample, distorting and feedbacking. This is what is called Dhikr, and it's devotional Sufi practice for the celebration of love for God through the Prophet and his family and local saints. It's typically performed collectively and is based on coordinated breathing, vocalization, as you just heard, and bodily movement. Just to give you a little to briefly situate what you just listened to, the voice that was singing was saying, love isn't just words. This is a depth and love me, and whoever drank the tears, come and show me. So this kind of devotional practice was, since the 70s, has involved amplification and therefore heavy reverberation, echo, becoming part of the sonic environment and of its aesthetics. What is important here is that sound is not simply produced, but it's inhabited, it's shared, and continuously transformed, and I will explain more in detail how. So, working on the Dhikr posed a methodological problem. The Dhikr is a temporary space of joy, celebrating love, but it's also a space of grief release, which can come from hardships that are shared by the whole collectivity in their own personal ways, especially for the most unrepresented people in Egyptian society. So rather than being a sonic representation of a community or a symbol of a culture, the Dhikr is faith, and it's the community's work of being present socially and indirectly also politically. So therefore, it was not something that I could record and analyze alone, but it was an experience that unfolded through bodies, movement, amplification, and shared listening. So the challenge was not only to document it, but how to engage it through sound itself. So the question, this is where the question of spatial audio emerged, not as only a technical choice, but also as an ethnographic necessity. So the central question here is, what does it mean to make spatial audio as an ethnographer? I approached this question by drawing on work in some studies and anthropology that understands listening as relational rather than purely perceptual. For example, Siebenfeld has described epistemology as a way of knowing the world through sound, where listening is always embedded in social and environmental relations. Similarly, Brandon Labelle and Jean-Luc Nancy in his work on listening and resonance emphasize that listening is not the reception of a fixed object, but an opening to others. And from this perspective, spatial audio is not simply about representing an external environment, but about engaging with how sonic experiences form through relations between bodies, technologies, and environments. So rather than starting from spatial audio as a system of representation, my approach begins from the field, and more specifically from the use of binaural in-ear microphone during the Dhikr. These microphones allow me to account for aspects of the sonic experience that are usually difficult to capture. First, bodily movements, breathing, friction of clothes, subtle gestures, which are integral to how the Dhikr is felt and enacted. And second, through individual localization cues, such as interval time and interval level differences, which situate each recording within a specific embodied perspective. And third, different positionalities, because recordings were made by different participants across gender, age, and social background, each recording reflecting a distinct way of being present in the same sonic environment. So, sorry, I had a problem with my script. So in this sense, spatial audio becomes not a representational tool, but a situated collective and embodied practice of listening. So in this, it is from this use of binaural recording that my methodological approach emerges. I developed what I call a transductive methodology, drawing on Stefan Helmreich's notion of transductive ethnography. But transduction refers to transformational sound across different states and media. So in this project, this process unfolds across three moments. First, recording experience. Participants take part in the Dhikr while wearing binaural in-ear microphones. And the recording is embedded within a body, capturing a situated partial perspective. Second, listening sessions. Participants listen back to these recordings, commenting on what they hear, what feels familiar or unfamiliar, and how their experience is translated through the recording. And third, the interpretation. The meaning emerges through the interaction between these two moments, between what was lived sonically and what is heard again through the binaural audio. So transduction here is not only a technical process, but an ethnographic one. And spatial audio is not treated as a final product to be analyzed, but as a process through which experience itself is transformed, negotiated, and made meaningful. So far, I have shown how binaural recording allowed me to capture a situated sonic perspective. The binaural audio relies on hair-related transfer function, as we may know, which depend on the specific morphology of the listener's head, torso, and of course, ears and the pinna. Because of this, the spatial cues, such as interval time and interval level differences, spectral cues, are not universally transferable and cannot be fully standardized across listeners. So in many spatial audio applications, this is addressed through HRTF individualization or correction methods, for example, through direct measurement in labs or anthropometric estimation or signal processing filters, or more recently through machine learning also. These approaches aim to improve the localization accuracy and the perceptual realism of the HRTF. However, in this project, the need to engage to Dhikr through a participatory sound-based approach led me to reconsider this variability. So instead of recreating a standardized immersive space to analyze the sonic environment of the Dhikr, I relied on the situated auditory experience of the participants who made the recordings and the listening sessions to reconstruct sensations, affects, and meanings. So if we turn to the Dhikr as a sonic space, it emerges a space composed of voices, musical instruments like hand-blown wooden flute called ney, oud, tabla, and re, which is a frame drum with cymbals, loudspeakers, of course, and bodies mainly. These elements all collaborate to create a dynamic sonic environment by variation in sound pressure, saturation, and resonance. So in certain moments of the Dhikr, sound intensifies. Voices and instruments accumulate, increasing overall sound pressure. Amplification introduces feedback and distortion, as we listen in the audio sample at the beginning of the paper, and frequencies saturate the space, creating a sense of immersion and density. These are the moments of a sonic peak, where listening becomes almost overwhelming and collective. In other moments, the intensity recedes, so the sound pressure decreases, individual voices and the breathing becomes more perceptible. And these are the moments of rest, often experienced as more meditative and introspective. What is important here is not only the presence of sound, but how this fluctuation between peak and rest are collectively produced and felt. And in this sense, spatialization emerged through the modulation of intensity, resonance, and bodily engagement. So this leads to the central concept of the presentation, sonic in-betweenness. By this, I refer to a condition in which different temporality and presences overlap, where human and divine come into contact and individuals are both present and absent. Binaural audio here operates in between presence and absence, moments that participants didn't remember, for example, documentation and interpretation, and self and the other, which means connection to God, spirituality. It never fully reproduces an experience, but sonic in-betweenness also never fully abstracts from the sonic experience. Instead, it creates a space of partial connection. So in this sense, the mismatch between recording and listening that we have just seen with the HRTF problem becomes meaningful. It reflects the ethnographic encounter itself, which is always situated, always incomplete, and always relational. So I want to add just one dimension to all of this, because the sonic space of the Dhikr is also political. In contemporary Egypt, practices like the Dhikr are increasingly regulated through police intervention, particularly through the control of amplified sound. So sound becomes something that can be limited or even silenced because deemed unmoral or unfitting in the idea of the modern and safe public space of the regime, or representing a non-orthodox version of Islam. So the police often comes to shut down the electricity, stopping the celebrations. At the same time, it is difficult to fully contain this process of controlling the sonic space because people might resume the Dhikr or turn to an acoustic version of it. So in this sense, the spatial sound in itself participates in negotiations of presence and authority, creating moments of ephemeral resistance. And here I would like to wrap up. And if spatial sound shapes who can be heard, where, and how, it also reshapes how we can understand listening itself, leading to the implication of this work. First, the challenges that arise in terms of perceptual realism when working with binaural audio can represent opportunities to rethink listening. The gap between the sonic experience of the Dhikr and the audio mediation doesn't mark necessarily a loss of fidelity, but a place where meaning emerges through difference. So here the sonic in-betweenness is not only the phenomenology of the Dhikr, but the methodological condition of its study. Second, it's not natural. spatial audio is not always natural, but it can be political, because technologies of spatialization do not simply reproduce sound, but participate in shaping how space is perceived and inhabited. And third, it's not always about the techniques, but it's also about relations and about ethical dimensions of it. Involves questions of perspective or translation and partiality. So what this project did was to approach spatial audio as a method of listening that foregrounds situated the possibility of a shared and also space for incomplete experience. Thank you.